Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. It is Monday, June 3rd, 2013, or at least it was. And Raw was live tonight from Hartford, Connecticut, right down the road from Stanford, Connecticut, which is the headquarters of the WWE. But anyways, the show starts off with a recap of Cena and Ryback, the feud up to this point, blah blah blah, whoop-de-doo. After that, we get another recap of Triple H and his fight against Axel, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. And, they're going over, Triple H got hurt, he was still concussed or whatever from the fight with Brock and whatever. So anyways, they get done recapping, finally. And then they cut into the arena, and Roberts, the ring announcer, says, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephanie McMahon." We haven't seen Stephanie in quite a long time. So she comes out, and she has new music, by the way. It's been so long since we've seen her that, her old theme, apparently they decided to not have her use that anymore, but whatever. She comes out, and she's talking about Triple H being hurt and whatever, and she says that, as his wife and the mother of his children, and, as one of the heads of the WWE, I'm telling you that Triple H will not compete tonight, even though he's been cleared to wrestle, and he is going to want to fight Axel, he's not going to. And of course the fans boo for some reason, because I don't even know why you would want to see Triple H go again. He's really not that good, especially now. She also adds that Curtis Axel is below Triple H. So she's also burying him at the same time. I'm like, yeah, well that's great, just bury the guy. Pfft. Anyways, after she gets done talking, you hear Vince's music start playing. Yes, out comes Mr. McMahon. He's been missing for a while after getting F5'd by Brock. And that happened a while ago. He comes out and he talks and he basically says the same thing. We're not going to let Triple H wrestle tonight, yada yada. They go on, then they go back and forth a little bit, and whatever. So they're talking. And then all of a sudden, the Shield music hits. And out comes the Shield, our tag team and United States champions. They come down, and for some reason, before they get to the ring, it cuts to commercial. And I'm thinking, of all the times to cut to commercial, it's looking like the Shield is going to come out and lay waste to Vince and Stephanie. Although I suppose that may be a little silly of me to think that, because, God knows Vince ain't going to get his ass kicked by these guys. That would be career suicide. I mean, whatever. But anyways, I'm like, why would you cut to commercial? Well, of course, it's to promote the frickin' stupid WWE app that they're pushing like crazy. Anyways, I don't pay attention to crap on the app, so don't bother asking me about it. But we come back from commercial, the Shield's in the ring, Vince and Stephanie are nowhere to be found. And the commentators say, they left during the break. I'm like, okay, great. Don't like them anyways. But anyways, so the Shield's in the ring, and then Randy Orton's music hits, and he comes out. and he gets to the bottom, the end of the aisleway, and he stops. He's not going to get in the ring by himself with the Shield. He'd get his ass kicked. And then, of course, the stage blows up. Kane's pyro. Out comes Team Hell No. Whatever. It's time for another big six-man tag match. And this was actually a fairly good match, of course. You know, pretty much all of these guys are pretty solid in the ring at the least. So, couple of highlights from this. Couple of minutes into the match, Orton gets Rollins and Ambrose both on the apron and both slung into the ring, and he cinches them up for that rope-hung DDT, and he plants both of them with it at the same time. And after doing that, he goes over to Reigns, who is on the other side of the ring, and he tries to do the same thing to him. But before he can, Rollins comes from behind, and Enziguri kicks Randy in the back of the head. Shortly after that, there was a hot tag moment, and Daniel Bryan gets tagged in, and he comes in like a house of fire, and he starts laying waste to everyone. Right, so he does that, and he's fighting hard and everything. He ends up hitting a Super Hurricane Rana on Rollins from off the top rope, and Rollins comes down and lands on top of Ambrose, who was laying on the mat. I guess he got knocked down by Bryan, probably. And so Rollins lands on top of him. Somehow Kane wound up in the ring, and he got speared by Reigns. This is the part, of course, in the match where all hell breaks loose, you know. So Kane gets speared by Reigns. Randy RKO's Rollins. And then what happened was Randy went to RKO Reigns. Reigns blocks it, shoves Randy off, shoves him into Daniel Bryan, and Randy basically forearmed Bryan in the face, kind of knocked him loopy. Randy then got thrown out of the ring, and Reigns went out after him. Ambrose, who was still legal, grabs Bryan, who was still legal, plants him with the headlock driver, 1, 2, 3, and that's match. And so, the Shield, yet again, still undefeated, supposedly, in six-man tag competition. Of course, the one DQ loss, whatever. Anyways. After that, they show a little hype thing for a contract signing later between Punk and Jericho for the match at Payback that's supposed to happen. And so that's apparently going to happen later on. And that sounds all great. Okay, but anyways, we get that, and then I think they cut to a commercial there. They come back. Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Randy are all backstage in the locker room, and they're arguing about, what happened and all this shit. So they're arguing. Bryan's pissed because, of course, he's the one who got pinned. And he's still going on and on about being the weak link. And he says, you guys don't respect me. Kane's trying to calm him down. We do respect you, whatever the fuck. And so Bryan gets all pissy and he says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to beat up the first person I see or whatever. And I'm going to gain your respect. Whatever. They cut away to another shot backstage, and it looks like Triple H has finally showed up. He's got his his tote bag. He's got a little carry-on luggage bag he's got with. He wants to know where Vince is. He talks to some stagehand, and the dude points him in the right direction. Triple H goes over to the office, and him and Vince and Stephanie all start arguing, talking about Triple H, is he going to wrestle tonight or not, blah, blah. It's really freaking stupid. Doesn't care if he's going to watch or he's going to wrestle. I don't fucking care. We don't need to see him bury Axel. I don't like Axel, but if you're going to push the young guy, at least put him over, for fuck's sake. But anyways, they're arguing, and Vince basically says, you know what? I'm laying down the law here. You're not competing tonight. And he walks out of the office and leaves. And then as he's leaving, the camera's outside the door, and Stephanie closes the door so you can't see what happens. I guess Triple H and Stephanie continued arguing. Whatever. We cut back to the arena, and the Usos are on the stage. The Usos, who we haven't seen very much of over the last few weeks. But they get their whole entrance, their whole tribal war dance thing, and I actually happen to notice that both of them have this yellow face paint on their faces. But the weird thing about it is, one of them, it's like they only have half and half. One of them has the left half painted, and the other one has the right half. I have no clue why do that, but whatever. They come out, they get their whole entrance, they get their pyro that they don't fucking deserve because they're not that good. And then they cut to commercial. And they come back, and the primetime players are in the ring, and the match has already basically started. So we've got a match between two tag teams that ain't worth shit. The match ain't that great. The Usos wind up winning, of course, with their rip-off Superfly Splash. Whatever. Who gives a fuck? We move on. We cut backstage, and it shows a split-screen view of half of it is Del Rio and Rodriguez walking to the ring, and the other half is AJ and Big E walking to the ring. So apparently we're going to get this match one more damn time, and apparently this is the 5th time that these guys have wrestled in the last few weeks. And this is supposed to be the rubber match because apparently they're both 2-2. Now, I only remember seeing 3 of these matches. So, I don't know. Maybe I missed one somewhere. Maybe one happened on Superstars or Main Event or something, and I don't watch those, so, you know, whatever. But anyways, they're saying, okay, we're going to have this match again, and that's up next. They cut to commercial. They come back. Roberts introduces Ricardo, who introduces Del Rio. Del Rio comes out. Big E comes out with AJ, of course. And it's time for the match. The first thing I noticed really early on in the match is the crowd starts chanting, "We want Ziggler." Yeah. Trust me, he's been gone for way too long. I want him back too. This thing between Del Rio and Big E is kind of getting boring now. So, whatever. But they start having the match. And, Del Rio's really trying to get this arm, the cross arm breaker in on Big E. He's trying to get him to tap to it. And they keep doing this thing where Del Rio has him in the arm breaker, and Big E's trying to power out of it like he normally does, but Del Rio's just kind of popping his hips or whatever and slamming Big E back down so he can't break out of it. He breaks out of it, and they still keep going for it and whatever. And the finish of the match is Del Rio gets him into it again. And again, Big E tries to power out of it. And Del Rio uses the momentum of throwing him back down to the canvas. He uses it to roll him up like a small package kind of. And he uses that to get the pin on him. and he pins Big E like that. Really kind of a lame finish, but whatever. So Del Rio wins that one. And then afterwards, Big E's kind of upset with AJ, whatever. Not upset with her, but he's upset and AJ's there in the ring because, you know, she's kind of mad at him for losing again. But anyways, they cut backstage to Sheamus walking down the hallway. Apparently he's got a match coming up. They cut... or no, what it was is I think Sheamus came out, and then they cut to commercial, and they come back, and then Cody Rhodes is coming out with Damian Sandow. And so, Rhodes is going to have a match with Sheamus. Sandow's on commentary this time, by the way, and the other commentators, all frickin' 3 of them, because they're still on this kick of doing 3 commentators when you really only need 2. It's getting old at this point. Seriously, get one of them the hell off the booth. It's getting old. But anyways, Sandow is on commentary, and the other commentators happen to make note of the fact that Damian is reading a book that was apparently written by JBL's wife. And it's supposed to be about the concept of might makes right or whatever, something like that. And Sandow's basically just disagreeing with that philosophy or whatever, because he thinks that, you know, intelligence is more, you know, mental strength is more important than physical strength. You know, his whole I'm an intellectual thing, you know, whatever. But whatever. So Cody and Sheamus are in the ring having their match, and I happen to notice they're both out on the apron, and Sheamus is trying to get the stupid where he hooks the dude's arms around the rope and then chest pounds him 10 times. He's trying to get that, but Cody's fighting it off and getting out of it. He kind of rolls down the ropes and goes towards the corner, and they start doing this exchange on the corner post. And Sheamus again tries for the thing with the chest beating, but Cody gets out of it, and then Sheamus tries to kick through the corner, the turnbuckle, the ropes. He tries to get through it, but Cody catches his foot and bangs it up against the post, and so Sheamus is kind of hurt with that, and whatever. And I notice at this point that the commentators are comparing Cody to, well, JBL says that with that mustache, Cody looks like Prince. And I think it was Michael Cole said, yeah, he also looks like Freddie Mercury from the band Queen. Whatever. The match keeps going. Sheamus finally hits the white noise and then the brogue kick, and he wins, of course. Whatever. And then after the match, Sheamus goes over to Damian on the commentary table, and he puts his hand out like he wants to shake Damian's hand. And Damian's like, no, I'm not going to shake your filthy hand. He refuses it 2-3 times, and then Sheamus just slaps him in the face and knocks him on his ass. And then they cut backstage to Triple H and Stephanie. They're walking through the hall out to the loading bay area or whatever. Triple H has his car. He's got the trunk open. He's throwing his bag in the trunk. He says, "I'm leaving," and but he says that he will open Raw next week and fight Curtis Axel. He's finally going to get his revenge for whatever. And I'm like, there's no revenge here, stupid. He didn't beat you. For fuck's sake. Stupid shit. But anyways, after that, I think they cut to commercial after that, and when they come back, they do a recap of Ryback putting Kofi through the 3 tables from SmackDown. And they really wanted to push that, I guess. And then they cut to backstage where Bryan is still pissed. He's walking through one of the hallways. And I think he flips a table over, or smacks something off of it or whatever, and then he bumps into Ryback. And so they have a little verbal exchange, and Ryback essentially challenges him to a match. And Brian's like, you know what, fine. So apparently we're going to have Ryback and Brian later on. Whatever. They cut to the office with Vince is still there, or he came back there or something, and Paul Heyman and Curtis Axel is there as well. And the three of them are talking, and Vince says, you know what, kid, you got a bright future. He's talking to Curtis. He says, you know what, kid, you got a bright future, you know, talking about his father, his grandfather, all that stuff. But then he says, I've got a match for you later on tonight. And Heyman goes, oh, great, here it comes. And Vince says, Axel, you're going to take on John Cena once again in a no disqualification match. And I'm thinking, well, this makes no sense. The only reason Axel won last week was because of a countout. So why not make it a no countout match? But no, it's going to be a no DQ match for some reason. Whatever. They make the match, and then they cut to another backstage hallway walking segment. This time it's Fandango and Summer Rae, and Summer's wearing this gold sparkly dress. You know, about all she's good for is looking, you know, being good eye candy, and I guess she's good at that, but she's not that great at dancing. But anyways, they cut to commercial. Oh, so apparently Johnny has a match up next. And so they cut to commercial, and when they come back, they do a little video thing or whatever, hyping up. They're going to do a Miz TV segment on SmackDown with Team Hell No and Randy Orton. So this is apparently being booked for SmackDown. Okay, great. We come back to the arena, and out comes Johnny. He's dancing with Summer and whatever, and he gets his little, I don't even know what to call it. It's like they have his little logo, it's him doing his little pose, but they have this, it's like a lighting rig, but it's lit with candles or something, and they all pop at once and whatever. He's had this a few times before, but anyways. And so he's there, and Summer's there, and then I'm thinking, okay, who's he going against? And they start talking about the dance contest from like a month ago with him and Khali. And I'm like, oh great, we're gonna do this again. Out comes Khali with Natalya and frickin' Hornswoggle. But thankfully this match doesn't last long. It really only lasts about a minute or two. Khali gets the upper hand, and he starts getting Johnny in the corner and doing the big chest slap. He nails that a couple of times, and he's just beating Johnny down, and then all of a sudden Johnny rolls out of the ring, and he motions to Summer. He's like, alright, let's get the fuck out of here. They start leaving, they're backing up the ramp, and then the camera is looking up the ramp, and you can see the Miz come out behind him. Johnny turns around and sees him, and he's like, oh, great. You know, Miz is going to try and stop him. But, from out of frickin' nowhere comes Wade Barrett, who clocks Miz with the bullhammer elbow, and just lays Miz out on the stage. They cut to commercial. And before they cut to commercial, they make note of the fact that Wade and Miz are supposed to have a match. And I'm like, okay, great. They come back from commercial, and they're having the match. Miz and Barrett. Non-title, there's no title on the line here. During the match, Johnny comes back out. He left after Miz got clocked, because there was nobody stopping him. So Johnny comes back out and distracts Barrett, I think. He distracts Barrett, who had the upper hand. Miz was laid out, and then so Johnny comes out, distracts Barrett, and off the distraction, Barrett turns back around to face the Miz. Miz trips him, like drop toe hold trips him, and cinches him up in the figure 4. And Wade taps out to it. Now, I like the Miz, don't get me wrong. I just don't think he should be using the figure 4. Now, it's not that he's bad at it or anything like that. I'm gonna guess it's more along the lines of bad booking or whatever. The way he does it, he just slaps it on people out of nowhere without working on the legs or, doing anything to try and work the legs to actually make it seem plausible that they would tap out to the move. Submissions only work when you've worked on the limb or whatever that the submission works on. You're not going to get a guy to tap out to the sharpshooter unless you've worked on his legs or back. You're not going to get a guy to tap out to the camel clutch unless you've worked on his back. It just don't work that way. You got to work on the body part first. And I've noticed in every match where the Miz has used the figure 4, he has either hardly worked the legs or he hasn't worked them at all. So it makes no sense for him to be winning with this. But anyways, he wins with the figure 4. They cut to commercial. They come back and they recap Steph and Vince and Triple H, the whole deal from earlier. And then they cut back into the ring, and Lawler is in the ring, and he introduces Jericho. It's time for the contract signing. So Jericho comes out with his light bright jacket, and then Lawler introduces Heyman, and Heyman comes out, and they sit down at this table they have, of course, for the contract signing, and Heyman starts talking, and he's trying to hype up Punk and everything by saying, he's the best in the world, he's, this and that. And he tries to go and say the longest reigning champion in the last however many years. Jericho cuts him off and finishes what Heyman was going to say. He says, yeah, he was reigning for 400 and something days, the longest reigning champion in the last 24 years or some such, and whatever. He starts rambling on and on and on. And Heyman signs the contract. And I need to bring this up. I don't see how Heyman can sign on behalf of Punk. Maybe I'm just not getting it, but even though Heyman is Punk's manager or agent or whatever, I just don't see how he can sign on behalf of Punk in this case. Wouldn't the guy himself need to sign for the match? Only makes sense. I don't know, but whatever. Heyman signs it, and then he continues talking. He says he wants to remind Jericho that, remind him of who he's dealing with. Punk is, the best in the world, this and that. And he also wants to remind Jericho that for the pay-per-view, it's going to be in Chicago, Punk's hometown, where Jericho will be vilified and booed and jeered and all this other shit. And so Jericho's like, oh, I guess you're right, maybe we should wait until SummerSlam in Los Angeles? Yada yada, and then they're like, no. Heyman says no, and then he says, well, then how about we do it right here in Hartford? And Heyman says no, and then Jericho says, well, okay, it'll be in Chicago then. And he signs the contract anyways. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, okay, well, that was a waste of time. Jericho signs and then talks some more. And he starts getting on about where do we need to file this contract? Do I need to file it with my lawyers or with your lawyers? Or at WWE headquarters right down the road? And then he gets up from the table and he walks around the table and he goes over to Heyman and he says, stand up. And Heyman don't want to stand up. And Jericho threatens him into it, so Heyman finally stands up. And then Jericho says, unbutton your jacket. And this is getting really uncomfortable really quick. I'm thinking, what's he going to do? Tell Heyman to file it up his ass? I don't know. But whatever. Heyman unbuttons his jacket, and then Jericho just rolls the contract up and shoves it down Heyman's pants. The front. Whatever. They cut to commercial. So that segment wasted a whole lot of goddamn time and went nowhere, essentially. And, we come back. We come back from commercial, and the Bellas come out. And I'm like, okay, they had mentioned something about a 6-diva tag team match, so we got the Bellas, who's their partner. Out comes AJ. And I'm like, oh great, this match again. And, of course, after that, the Funkadactyls come out. And then, of course, their tag team partner is Caitlyn. They've done this match before. And the fact that they have done it before actually comes up. So anyways, they start having the match, and the only notes I can really make from this crap match is that Cameron, she actually gets in the ring for like a few seconds. And the only thing I can note is that she still looks like shit in the ring. She does not have a fucking clue what she's doing. She really should not be wrestling. Don't know why they keep doing it, but whatever. She tags out to Naomi, and Naomi's not even that much better either. They still suck. But, let's see. One of the Bellas is in the ring with Caitlyn. And she goes over to the corner to tag AJ, and AJ jumps off the apron and starts laughing, and she walks out on the match. And that's why I said it would come up from earlier, because the last time this match happened, one of the Bellas short-armed AJ, and AJ wound up getting speared by Caitlyn, and that was match. The exact same thing happens here, only it's AJ that short-arms the Bella. She walks away laughing. The Bella turns around, gets speared by Caitlyn, and Caitlyn wins. They cut to another frickin' commercial. We come back, and Bryan's backstage with Kane. Or I should say, Bryan's there, he turns around and bumps into Kane, who's towering over him. It's ridiculous. Kane's trying to talk him out of the match with Ryback. Bryan's saying, no, I've got something to prove, whatever the fuck. So, Bryan says, I don't want you out there for my match. I want to prove that I can do it all by myself. And Kane says, fine, I'll do you one better. I'm leaving. So Kane's leaving the arena. He's going to the hotel. He's done for the night. Whatever. They cut back to the announcers, and they start talking about the weird Wyatt family thing from last week. And they say, well, here's another video package for these schmucks. They play another video package of these schmucks. Whatever. More with the goat face masks. More with Wyatt going on and on about how he's the eater of worlds. And he says, the people always told you when you were a kid, don't believe in monsters, they're not real. And he says, well, that's bullshit because they are real. Fucking screw off. You're not a monster. You're a stringy-haired chump with no fucking talent or charisma. But anyways, the video package ends, they cut to commercial. We come back, or no, The video package ends, and out comes Daniel Bryan. Then they cut to commercial. We come back, we get a recap of earlier. I'm trying to remember what the fuck it was earlier that they recapped. Oh, I think it was the thing with, they recapped Bryan losing to the Shield, losing the match to the Shield. They recapped that, and then, of course, the arguing that was backstage afterwards, yada yada. They recapped that, and then, of course, the ambulance siren goes off again. And out comes Ryback out from the back of the damn ambulance again. I don't know why the fuck they keep having Ryback come out of this ambulance. Yeah, the ambulance match at Payback. So what? You don't have to have him come out from the ambulance every frickin' week on the show. And he's even been doing it on SmackDown, I think, too. But whatever. Ryback comes out. Bryan and Ryback start having their match. The crowd's chanting Goldberg, whatever the fuck. This match actually wound up being fairly decent despite the one piece of shit in it, and that's being Ryback, that is. But even still, the match wound up being decent. Bryan's really working hard in the early going in this match because, he's still, of course, on his kick to prove that he's not the weak link. So he's taking it to Ryback, and they're going back and forth. And at one point, Bryan gets the... I remember how this happened. I think Ryback threw Bryan into the ropes. And Ryback goes for the Thez press. But Bryan counters out of it. And on the way down, he rolls Ryback's leg up into a single leg Boston Crab. So he's doing that. Ryback manages to get out of it. But then, Bryan locks him in that weird leg submission I said from the last time. I found out he goes for an Indian deathlock, and then rolls Ryback onto his back, and then he starts hitting the forearm shots. This is like an MMA thing, and apparently Bryan did this back on the independent circuit, back before he came to the WWE. Shortly after that, they cut to the commercial in the middle of the fucking match. But anyways, they come back from they come back from commercial, and Ryback's in control. So Ryback's hammering on him for a bit. Bryan manages to turn it around with 3 huge drop kicks. The first one was Ryback was standing facing the corner, but he was kind of propped away from it. Bryan comes screaming from across the ring. Big drop kick to the back. Knocks Ryback into the post, dazes him. Bryan runs back across into the other corner, bounces off the friggin' turnbuckle, comes screaming across again, drop kicks Ryback in the fucking chest. Ryback goes down on his knees. Ryback hits the corner again, comes screaming again, and drop kicks Ryback in his face while he's down on his knees. Goes for a pin, only gets 2. Then he goes to the top rope, Bryan does, and hits a big missile drop kick. And I think he goes for another pin, still only gets 2. He lays Ryback out, and he's really far across the ring. He goes to the one turnbuckle that is furthest from Ryback, and this is like 3/4 of the way across the ring. He goes for that big, huge Chris Benoit headbutt, and he manages to nail it. Headbutt right to Ryback's heart. Still only gets a 2 count. After that, as Ryback's trying to get up, he gets up to his knees, and Bryan starts doing his big kicking combo. And he kicks him in the chest 3-4 times, whatever, and then goes for the big roundhouse to the head. Ryback catches him, lifts him up, and power bombs the fuck out of him. And Ryback's kind of trying, after that, he's kind of trying to shake off the cobwebs because, he got the crap kicked out of him. But then he goes over to Bryan, who's still laid out on the canvas. He goes to lift him up, dead weight lift him, for another power bomb. But as he's going for that, Bryan counters it into the no-lock, and he's stretching him with the fucking no-lock. And Ryback actually manages to get to the ropes, gets a rope break, and rolls out of the ring. And this is on the side of the ring with the commentator table. So Bryan gets up, he screams across the ring, hits the ropes, comes back, suicide dive through the ropes. Ryback catches him, kind of throws him headfirst into the announce table. So, that sucks. He picks him up like a spine buster, rams him into the corner post a couple of times, and then throws him in the ring. And he goes under the ring and gets a table out. And he brings it into the ring. He brings it into the ring and he sets it up. The referee's like, no, you can't do that. You got a match going on here. But he doesn't care. He sets up the table. He picks Bryan up and he powerbombs him through the fucking table. And the referee calls for the bell, DQ. So, even with the shit finish, it was still a good match. After that, Ryback goes to get another table out, and he gets it out, but just before he can put it in the ring, out comes Cena to make the save. And so, Ryback has this table set up in the corner of the barricade on the outside of the ring, and he just kind of leaves it there. So, with Cena in the ring, he's got his belt. He looks like he's shaking in his boots because Ryback, he's a big motherfucker. But Cena's like, "Come on, motherfucker! I got my belt. I'll clock you with it." Ryback gets up on the apron like he's gonna get in the ring, and as they're having their little stare down, we start hearing the drum beat, the intro to McGillicuddy, Curtis Axel's music. They haven't changed it again. It's the same as it was on SmackDown, I believe. Out comes Axel. Because, of course, him and Cena have a match, which actually is the main event. So, as Curtis is coming out, Ryback decides to leave. And apparently Bryan's hurt after being powerbombed through the table. So they're like, okay, get the medics out, whatever. They cut to commercial. We come back, and the match is starting between Cena and Curtis Axel. It's a no DQ match. And when Vince first announced it, like I said, I was like, why not make it a no countout? Because that's how Curtis won the first time. Well, let me just go through it. It's no DQ. So, really early in the match, I think Cena threw Curtis into the corner, and then he tried to hit the ropes because he was going to do like his little running bulldog thing that he does, but but as he hits the ropes, Heyman trips him on the outside, and Cena plants on the face, and I think he rolls out of the ring then. But yeah, so Heyman gets involved early there, and the commentators are quick to remind us, oh, it's no DQ, this is all legal. And I'm thinking, even if it wasn't no DQ, managers get involved all the time, and it doesn't fucking do anything. The referee doesn't do shit, and he just ejects the referee or whatever. But anyways, it's all perfectly legal now. Oh, and I also happen to notice that Axel is wearing a new pair of trunks. Before he was wearing the ones, I'm trying to describe the old ones. They were still like basically his McGillicuddy trunks, where they had these three, looked like claws, coming down on the front and in the back. But now they've changed. He's got new ones. On the back it says Axel, of course, and the X at the top parts of the X's are like axe heads, of course, the blades, of course, trying to again reference his grandfather, Larry the Axe. And on the front of his trunks, it has like this little kind of triangular, almost sort of diamond-esque design, and this to me seems to be a reference to Mr. Perfect's ring attire, where those of you who will remember, Mr. Perfect always had this singlet that he would wear, a doublet singlet, I don't know what you would call it, but he would always have it, and on the back it would be like this triangular cut to it where it would be a second color. normally. So, yeah. Curtis's trunks are black, but it has this little silver triangular thing in the front, and then it has Axel in silver on the back, with the axe heads, of course, on the X. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But back in the ring, Curtis has Cena in a headlock. And he yells over to Heyman. He says, "Paul, get me a chair." Heyman goes and gets him a chair and throws it in the ring, and they're all like, "Oh, this is all perfectly legal." Curtis picks up the chair, and he goes to hit Cena with it, but Cena counters it. He blocks the chair, he takes it away, he cracks Axel over the back with it, and then he throws Axel out of the ring. And then on the outside of the ring, he grabs Axel and throws him over the announce table. And while this is going on, I'm noticing that the referee's counting. And I'm like, I kind of figured like they were going to do the no DQ match. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't include no count out. So how are they going to do this shit? And I'm like, oh, well, they're not. The referee's actually counting. So immediately I'm thinking, what, is Cena going to get counted out again? But anyways, he throws Axel over the announce table. The announcers see it coming and they get the fuck out of the way. They get back in the ring before the 10 count, of course. And Axel gets in first, grabs the chair, and nails Cena in the guts with it as he gets back in the ring. So they do that. And then I noticed that McGillicuddy's holding the damn... He's still holding the chair, but I notice he's holding the thing backwards. He's trying to hit Cena with it. He swings and misses a couple of times. But I'm noticing he's swinging it the wrong damn way. He's got it so that the seat part of the chair, which is actually the part that you're supposed to hit the guy with, he's got that part facing the wrong direction. So if he did hit Cena, he'd be hitting him with the other side of the seat. The bad side, honestly. And then I see why he's holding it that way, because after he misses a couple of times, Cena drop kicks it into Axel's face. Cena then takes the chair and wedges it in the corner. But before Cena can do anything, Axel goes for a clothesline, and he's done this a couple of times. He goes for a clothesline, misses, but as Cena ducks, Axel comes back with the other arm and cracks him in the back. And I'm pretty sure this is referred to as the Northern Lariat, or at least it was when Bobby Roode was doing this move in TNA. But anyways, so he nails this on Cena. So Axel's got the upper hand for a little bit, but then Cena nails it. He starts doing his comeback combo. He hits the shoulder tackles, he hits the fucking protoplex, the 5-knuckle shuffle, and before he can do the AA, Axel grabs the ropes and kind of throws Cena off. And then as he's thrown off, Axel backs into the corner with the chair wedged into it. Cena tries to ram Axel, but Axel moves out of the way, and Cena crashes into the chair. Axel goes out of the ring and grabs the chair, because the chair fell out of the ring when this happened. He gets the chair, and he gets Cena back in the ring, and he whacks Cena with it a couple of more times. And then he cracks him over the back a couple of times, and then he starts cracking him in the guts with it. And he gets him down on his back, and he starts jabbing him in the ribs with the chair. And then he sets the chair down, face up, on the canvas. And Cena's getting up. He goes back into the corner, and I'm like, oh fuck. So Cena gets up. Axel comes running at him, hits the McGillicuddy on the chair. And so he slams him down on the chair. He goes for a count, or goes for a pin, only gets 2, whatever. And then he picks Cena up, and he cinches him up for the perfect plex. And I'm like, oh crap, he's going to go for the perfect plex on the chair. Cena gets out of it, drops down, trips Axel, and puts him in the STF. And while Axel's in the STF, Heyman on the outside goes over to the announce desk and grabs their computer or whatever, their laptop, and throws it into the ring to Axel, and Axel cracks Cena in the face with it to break the damn STF. They both wind up on the outside, and, oh right, Cena gets Axel up for the attitude adjustment, and he's over by the table that Ryback had set up earlier, the one that was in the corner of the barricade. He's getting ready to F-U Axel through this table, but Heyman gets in the way, and he's begging, no, don't do it, no. And Axel finally fights out of it, and Cena goes after Heyman. But as Cena is distracted by Heyman, Ryback comes out of nowhere and cracks Cena from behind, and then he basically spears Cena through the damn table. And meanwhile, Axel has rolled back into the ring, and the referee is counting. And the referee counts Cena's dumbass out again. So Axel has won by countout again. And that's pretty much the end of the show. So overall, this was actually a decent episode of Raw. It wasn't super great, but you know what? Daniel Bryan actually managed to get a good match out of Ryback. That's saying something, because Ryback normally can't put on a good match for shit. You know, he wasn't in there with two jobbers like he normally was, you know. He's actually in a match with a guy who can fucking go. But whatever. You had that, you had the six-man tag that pretty much opened the show. That was a fairly good match. Of course, you've got Randy and Kane and Bryan against the three guys in the Shield, and all six of these guys can go fairly well. So, I'm like, fuck yeah. It's, you know, like I said, it was actually a decent episode of the show for once. I'm glad about that. But yeah, decent episode of the show, and really nothing else to say. I mean, the Divas match was fucking horrible. Cameron and Naomi should not be getting in the fucking ring. They're both terrible. Cameron especially. It's like they looked at Alicia Fox and how bad she was, and they're like, how can we make this worse? And they're like, well, let's have two stupid chicks who can't fucking wrestle get in there and try and do it. And they'll be a tag team. And even worse, we'll make them Brodus Clay and Sweet Tea's fucking little cheerleader whores. Seriously? Fire these two whores. Find some real female wrestlers. Let Natalya wrestle more often. Get Beth Phoenix back on the phone. See if she'll come back. I doubt it after they buried her. But that reminds me of something. I know a few episodes back I talked about my Let's Play of TEW2013 that I was going to do. I have finally bought the full version of the game. I got it all set up. I got the database all set up and everything. And I will probably be doing that sometime here soon. If not tonight, it'll be in the next couple of days. I'm still trying to think of like how to make it not that boring, because like I said, there's no music and there's no background noise really aside from the mouse clicking, so it's probably going to be kind of boring. But I got back as many people from the original roster as I could. And the only people I didn't get back were people who have moved on and have signed with bigger companies like Ring of Honor, or there's a person or two who I think was actually with the WWE now, and there's a couple that are with TNA, and I didn't want to mess with that. But I've also got a few people who were never in Wrestling Society X, but I figured they'd be a good fit. For those of you fans out there who are actually fans of the business, actual wrestling and not this sports entertainment garbage, I'm really going to try and make this be like a real wrestling company and not this sports entertainment zoo that we have in the WWE. I've also signed several female wrestlers, good female wrestlers. I've got a couple of ideas that I'm working with. I've created the titles. Of course, I brought back the WSX title. Actually changed it around a bit. I found some cool belts, and I'm going to use those. But I've got, of course, the main title. I have a mid-card title. I have an X Division title, tag team title, and of course one for the women. So I've got those. I've got a couple of teams set up for the tag team division. There's a big stable set up, or that will be set up, and there's going to be a big storyline with that. And I have two guys in particular. One guy will be in that big stable, and the other one will be feuding with him. And it's going to be this big, underdog storyline, real good stuff. And we're going to have that going. But yeah, that I should have the first episode of that up sometime within the next couple of days. I don't know if anybody's really all that interested, but we'll get that going sometime soon. But in any event, that will conclude this episode of the Wrestling Rant for Raw from June 3rd, 2013 in Hartford, Connecticut, right down the street from WWE headquarters. It was a decent show, but not super great. Definitely wasn't as good as the Raw from the night after WrestleMania. But then again, it also wasn't as bad as WrestleMania was. So, all in all, I'd say like 3 out of 5 stars or whatever for the whole match, or the whole show. Well, like I said, that will conclude this episode of the Wrestling Rant. Thank you for joining us once again. If you're still with us, I appreciate any fan feedback. But that'll conclude this episode. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.